It has been a couple of months now since I've returned home to Devon, and the landscape is always striking and beautiful, but what gets me more is the community. On the 12th of May 2018, a friend and I went to Tiverton, where we went to an event at a little bookshop called Liznojan. Here we met some wonderful bookish people, and I was overwhelmed by the sense of community. So today I want to talk about Devon, literature and community. Hi guys, it's Matt here from MCS-books, and today I am in Liznojan, a lovely, lovely independent bookstore here in Tiverton. First of all, Liznojan is run by Kaylee and her mother Jackie. So Kaylee, would you like to tell us about the bookshop first?
Yes, so Liznojan has just completed half a year of being open. And we have grown lots in that time. Me and my mum run this together, as said, and I have two small children, so it's a fun game of juggling. We have lots of local authors as well as books that you may not have heard of before. We specialise in children's books and beautiful books and sustainability. We have an organic cafe which is also vegan. And we sell plants like succulents, cacti and various indoor plants as well.
Excellent. So I've been here today with the Devon Book Club. I've been trying to get more active, as you all know, in my local area and local community, and trying to get into like book groups and bookish activities. So I've finally done it, and I've attended my first Devon Book Club event here in the lovely bookshop. We've had some authors that we've been talking to, and we've just been meeting other people in the local area. Now, Ian here is the, what would you call yourself? What's your position?
Facilitator?
Ian here is the facilitator of the Devon Book Club, and we have Chrissie, who is a local author who's been talking about her book today. So first of all, let's start with you, Ian. Can you tell us a bit about the Devon Book Club and the bookish community here in Devon?
So, I mean, the story in brief is I started it about 3.5 years ago, thinking this was just going to become a small chat group for people that love books in Devon. 3.5 years later, and about 3,000 now people connected to us, it's turned into something quite different. So I think I hope we're fast becoming a really easy place to find where people can connect writers and bookshops and libraries and festivals and readers and anything and everything that's going on in Devon, and it's been a great experience. I mean, joining the dots, I think, is the way I put it, of the literary culture in Devon, and I think not just in Devon but also people from all over the UK and worldwide actually have been joining up with it. It's been fabulous, great experience.
Excellent. So, since all four of us here obviously live in Devon and we all love Devon so much that we want to like really make this community stronger, I thought it might be fun if we go around and each say our favourite thing about living in Devon.
Wow. Okay. So, favourite thing about living in Devon? Well, I suppose it's the countryside, isn't it? Really. That's why I moved here from Essex. Because no one from Devon is actually from Devon. They're from everywhere else. Yeah, definitely the moors and the countryside and the wildlife. And that's why I'm hosting the Lost Birds Trail soon as well, because we have so much nature here. My favourite part of Devon is probably the art scene. There is quite like a massive art scene really in Devon, but unfortunately it's all kind of here and there and point to point, and things like this, which I absolutely love, are what kind of connects us all together and makes it just that little bit easier for people who are kind of struggling to get into it. Oh,
for me, it's got to be the coast paths and the moorland, and I think the culture, the communities of Devon. I mean, I've been here for the 36 years, I think now, so I'm almost Devonian. My children were born in Devon, so I think that counts.
Mine, yeah.
So I think they count, and I just think it's the most wonderful place to live, and I love the way the Book Network connects the literary culture, and I think it's a very rich literary culture, and we're fortunate to have lots of fabulous writers and bookshops and all the rest of it, so I love all that. It's great.
For me, it's the people in Devon are wonderful. Green Hills, countryside, like you said. Also the Grand Western Canal in Tiverton. That's a beautiful place to go and hang out and walk, and I'm very lucky to have it quite close to my doorstep. And again, the culture and the writing scene, there are a lot of authors in Devon, and many people do not realise just how many authors there are in Devon.
Yes.
There are a huge number, so it's a great place to be overall.
Definitely. So, since there are so many authors, and you are one of them,
I am.
would you like to talk about your book and your experience of writing?
I'm an author. I live in Devon. I have published 5 books so far, 2 historical fiction, 2 thrillers and a poetry and short story book. My favourite book, however, is this one. I shouldn't say favourite, I've said this before. I shouldn't say favourite because the others will get jealous. But anyway, this is my favourite. It's actually a historical fiction set on the Greek island of Zakynthos, but part of it is also set in Bristol and Cornwall as well. So it kind of encapsulates 3 places. And I was born in Bristol, which is quite nice, so I put a little bit of that in there. But effectively, it's set in 2 periods, a modern period around about sort of 2000-ish, and then it's also set in World War II. And the World War II part is all set on the Greek island of Zakynthos, or Zante as some people know it. And the reason I wrote it was because I know the island well, I have family and friends there. Greece has been through quite a hard time over the years. I wanted to show the island as it really is, and also to show the incredible history that's there that people may not actually know about. So even though it's actually a work of fiction, there is a lot of fact, things that happened during World War II that actually run through the book, even if I've had to change names. So it's a very, very important book for me, and I just love it, and I really enjoyed writing it.
Excellent. So I'll put a link to Chrissie's book and her other books down in the comments section below. So Chrissie, how would you say that living in Devon has influenced your writing in any way?
Living in Devon for me has influenced it in quite a few different ways. I find that the countryside, the scenery and everything is very inspiring. I'm one of those people that I do have an office, but quite often I don't write in my office, especially in the summer when the weather's nice. I'll drag a chair outside, I will go off somewhere, sit on a beach with a laptop. I've even been known to take my chair out onto the towpath on the canal and sit there and write, which is quite amusing because I get some really funny looks. But I find it very inspiring. It's a great place to be. It's great because you meet up with some fantastic people. I met Ian quite a number of years ago, and it's a fantastic book club to work with, and I've been to quite a few events with you now. And I've only met you very recently, but the event that we had here at the bookshop today was great because all 3 authors that were here, including myself, were of different genres, but we all live within the Devon area, and it was nice for people to meet local authors who all live in different parts of Devon but all write different genres, to give people a feel of actually what goes on here. And something that I find, having I'm a West Country girl, but I spent 17 years in London, and having come back to West Country, there is quite a sort of centred thing in London about authors. Everybody knows where to go, what to do. Something I found in the last couple of years is that a lot of West Country authors feel quite fractured. They don't feel that they fit in anywhere. They're a West Country author, but they don't fit in. Your book club is fantastic because it brings people together in Devon, certainly. But we also set up a Southwest Authors Group, which is for authors from Bristol, Somerset, Dorset, Devon and Cornwall. And there are lots of authors in Cornwall who have met each other and didn't even know they existed. People from the same village or the same area. And so it's been fantastic for these people to come to a group and all chat with each other, all go and meet up, hear about all the festivals that are going on in their area. And it's really broadened things for people. So it's really good.
So going off this, at the moment there are massive movements online and all over the nation in the UK. You might have seen it on my Twitter, talking about kind of getting the publishing industry out of London and specifically getting more people involved and included within the art scene and the literary scene. So, question to all 3 of you, what does it mean to you personally to have such a strong community around you?
Well, yeah, I suppose that's like our foundations when we started was to make sure that we were creating a community and supporting that community, because for a while that's been lost in Tiverton. It's like 10 years ago the last bookshop went, but it's not just books, like trying to get people in for all sorts of different things and really have that community. It's a place to come to. But the local, I have our local shelf. They work really hard, self-published, and it's tough. So you know, I negotiate with each person differently, and you know, we take it as it comes. You know, there's no set rule for anything, and I really allow them to have events that they want to hear, you know, and don't discourage anything. But yes, some publishers as well are easier to work with than others, I've found through this. So you know, it is, you know, the big ones don't necessarily want to know about the independents as well. But we are starting up our independent bookshop alliance, so hopefully they might start listening to us then.
Ian, what does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of different things I'd say. I mean, one is from the point of view of the book club. I think this is probably a very unusual network when I think around the country, because I've not yet found any other part of the UK that's got something bounded by its community, and in our case Devon. And I get contacted by Somerset and Dorset all over the place saying, could you do this for us? And I say, I'll partner with you, but I can't do it for you because it's, you know, I'm focused on Devon. So I think we're quite unusual, and I'd say to the publishing industry in London, it does need to get out of the metropolis and come and see what life is like elsewhere, because it's very vibrant, there's lots going on. So I think there's that. The other thing I would just say, which is a slightly more serious thing, which is my day job is in adult social care. So I work with carers, I work with people who are recovering from mental ill health and all sorts of other things. And what I find about books and the book network itself, the book club itself, is it's a way of people coming together from whichever background around a common interest, and that binds people in a really important way, and I think helps strengthen community anyway in a small way. And I love the idea that if it's midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and you're a carer and you finally have got a chance to sit and have a few moments to yourself when your loved one's perhaps gone to sleep, that if you want to, you can go online and you can talk to, put a comment out there knowing that tomorrow someone's going to reply. And that sense of not being lonely, not being isolated, being connected through books. And how awesome is that? You know, it's fabulous. I love that about it.
I would agree with both of you, and I think for me, the community, especially around the Tiverton area, has really, really grown lately. I know there's the Exeter Authors Association as well, which we tend to work with quite a lot, but there are a couple of groups who started up to try and really focus alongside yourself about you know, authors working together with readers, working together with bookshops. As an author, it can be incredibly difficult to go to somewhere that's a really big, well-known bookshop. I won't name any names because I don't want to disparage anybody particularly, but you can walk into them, you feel very intimidated. I don't get intimidated by a lot, but sometimes you can go in, they'll take one look at you and go, I'm not interested. They don't, before you even say anything, they're not interested. And yes, there are millions of books out there. Every author wants to get their book into a shop. But the way that things have been going in this area recently, I know there's a local radio station who are very, very community oriented, and they've put a lot of time into having authors onto their radio station to interview them, to get podcasts out, to get people in the local community to know who they are, which is fantastic. We meet a lot of our readers that some of them we've met, you know, we know have bought our books, but we meet new readers on a base level here who didn't even know that we lived, you know, a couple of streets down or something. And for me, I've donated a couple of my books to the local library. I've also donated a couple of my books to the local college, because I feel that I know they struggle with money and they can't buy books in. So if somebody wants to read something different, if I can just give them a couple of copies of my book, put those out into the community, I'm not worried about getting reviews back or anything. I would just like to give something back to the place that I live. So if I can do that to help them save a bit of money, even better. So I think for me, community is everything. Community is about all of us working together, whether it be the bookshop, the online club, you know, the local radio station, the college, the library. If we can all come together, all work with each other and do what we can, you know, whenever we can, then it only benefits everybody in the long run.
I 100% agree.
I also had the opportunity to talk with another local author who writes under the name of Michelle Kenney. It was a great chance to catch a different experience of writing and being inspired by our local area.
She has written a book called Book of Fire. So this book is available as ebook, and I'll post a link down below where you can access that ebook if you want to check it out. But what is the book about? So can you tell us, Michelle, what is the book about?
Thanks, Matt. It's been called a fusion of genres. HQ Digital called it a dystopian with a medieval heart, which I think is really good. But basically it's a dystopian adventure set in Exeter after a cataclysmic Great War. And it's about some feral twins, Talia and Eli, who go on a big adventure. And there is a strong Roman theme, a mythological theme. I don't want to give too much away, but there's an ancient manuscript in it. And there are two communities. There are insiders and outsiders. And the outsiders have survived after the war, and they've rebuilt life in somewhat of a rural idyll in a secret part of a forest. And they live in tree houses. So the adventure follows Talia, who is a feral outsider girl, and something happens, which means she has to leave her safe forest home and go into the life domes, where nobody has actually trod foot before and returned to the forest. And there she has lots of big adventures, and we discover something about an ancient text that could potentially have a life-changing effect on the earth.
So can you tell us what inspired this story?
Yes, a very simple thing. Went on a trip to the Colosseum many years ago in Rome, and as I was walking around the Colosseum, I noticed there were these burning torches of lavender, and the entire structure was filled with the scent of lavender. And on stopping the guide and saying, well, what's this about then? She said, well, back in the times of the ancient games, the officials would burn lavender in order to cover the scent of bloodshed and decaying flesh. So it's kind of a gruesome fact, really, but because of that, it stayed in my head, and yeah, just went on to breed an entire novel, as it does. So the Roman-inspired element of the book certainly came from that fact, but there were other factors as well that came into it eventually, such as a love of the unexplained, and I think we were chatting and I was talking about the Voynich manuscript and how, since discovering its existence, this medieval manuscript that has never been deciphered, despite the Bletchley Park crew being on it, despite the world's best cryptographers trying to tackle it, despite the most technical computers trying to decipher it, it still baffles scientists today. And that enigma certainly was one of the things that I wanted to build into the book. And so that, plus sort of the Roman-inspired dystopia, and wanting to do something too within the West Country. You know, I've got a local girl, got a strong love of the West Country, and we have such fantastic history right here on our doorstep, and I wanted to somehow weave that into the books as well.
Excellent. So you did just say that you are inspired by the local doorstep. Can you explain the links between Exeter and the Roman influence of the story?
So, I mean, I've grown up around these parts. I've always known about the Romans sort of being here 2,000 years ago, walked the ruins with my parents, walked the Roman wall, knew about sort of Rougemont Castle coming a little bit after, but the Roman fortress that had been there beforehand. And so this sort of very much a sort of a living experience of history on our doorstep was something that I really wanted to build in. And so when I decided that I wanted to write a book about a dictator who was looking back through history at a perfect or a very successful civilization to emulate, it was obvious to me that Octavia, who is the you know, if you read the book you'll find out, is the dictator in the life domes. She picked on the Roman civilization because to her it was one of the most successful civilizations, and she wanted to, through a genetic engineering program, she wanted to emulate that. And so for me, there was that aspect. There was the Roman civilization that I knew I wanted to recreate, and then of course I live here. You know, it's so inspirational. You know, there's this hotbed of history around us, and I just thought, well, why not bring that in? Why not weave? Why not weave that into this imaginary world where this dictator has got a biotechnical program that she wants to implement, and has taken it to its extreme, and she does so both with the human population and with, if you read the book, a more mythical population too.
Excellent. Certainly sounds very interesting. So the first book, which is Book of Fire, is already out now on ebook, and again I will link it down below. And the second book is coming out later this year.
Hopefully October.
Fingers crossed for October. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
So I think that's enough of the questions. I think just before we say goodbye, maybe we could all give one recommendation of our favourite book to the people who watch my videos.
Well, most recently I've read Circe by Madeline Miller. It's brilliant. So do you want me to go in more, or just that to do?
I think that's quite a popular one. I think a lot of people know that.
Don't know
already.
that.
It's
a great book.
Okay, good to know. I have read Song of Achilles and I am waiting to read it.
Oh, yes.
Just waiting for the paperback.
Oh, yeah.
Ian?
Well, I daren't choose one by a Devon author, dare I? So that would be too difficult. So if I go outside of all the wonderful Devon books, I would say, yeah.
Sorry, you carry on.
This is a good book.
I will not influence.
Outside of that, I think in the last year, two that I'd pick up on. One would be Tan Tuan Eng, The Gift of Rain, which I think is a most wonderful, wonderful book. He also wrote The Garden of Evening Mists, which is going to be made into a film I saw earlier on. So he's a Malayan writer. Wonderful, wonderful book. I'd recommend that. And the other one is the series, which was Elena Ferrante's Neapolitan novels, which I absolutely loved as well. There's 4 or 5 of them. I read all of those one after another and loved those. So they'd be a couple. So.
I hate this kind of question because I have so many books that I love. My normal response would be Agatha Christie, anything. But actually I have read a series, it's actually 4 books by an author that I know very, very well. She's actually not based in this country, she's based in America. But it's quite a timely series. It's YA and it's called the Harmony Run series. And long story short, it's about sort of 20 years in the future. It's about an American election and what happens after the American election, and the fact that the whole of the US basically gets shut down and certain things get done within the US that the rest of the world does not know about. And it's written so well, and YA is not something I normally read, but it was a really, really interesting set of books.
Excellent.
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, your turn. What about you?
Well, the most recent book that I've read that I loved the most, and it's probably my favourite read so far of the year, is Death in Spring by Merce Rodoreda. Yeah. It's part of the new European Writers series from Penguin. It was wonderful. I loved it. Oh, and actually, saying that, I did just finish one, which is another 5-star read. And that was The Boy Who Stole Attila's Horse by Ivan Rapilla, I think. Yeah, that was incredible. That's inspired me so much. You guys will hear about it at a later date because I have yet to review it. But yeah,
nice.
It's a good one. So thank you everybody,
okay.
and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.